Hi everyone! So this video is going to review how to simplify exponents. So before we start, I want to review some key terminology. This is read as 2 to the third, or you can read it as 2 cubed, okay? Where 3 is my exponent and 2 is called my base, okay? And let's talk about what this means. The exponent tells me how many times the base is multiplied by itself. So since my base is 2, it's 2 times 2 times 2. And that we all know is 8. Now let's take a look at something that looks a little different, okay? Here, let's note that 3 is still my exponent, but now my base is negative 2. Okay, if you think of it like a balloon, right, this exponent is holding on to the parentheses. So anything inside the parentheses is my base. Okay, which means, and I like to write it out for myself, right, it's negative 2, the base, multiplied by itself 3 times. Okay, which is negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4 times a negative 2 gives me the negative 8. So that gives me a different answer. The third type that I want to go over with you is negative 2 cubed. Okay, so here the 3 is my exponent, right? And if I think about it, the 3 is only holding on to the 2. Okay, that's the base. The base is 2, not negative 2 like the last example. So here it's saying the base, 2, is multiplied by itself 3 times, but then we have to remember the negative in front. So that is 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 with a negative in front of it. So this is negative 8, but for a different reason. So now what happens when you have a negative exponent, right? This is 2 to the negative 3. I don't know how to do it. My exponent is a negative number, right? When you have a negative exponent, you know that you have a fraction. Here, my exponent is negative, so I know I need to make a fraction. And what's going to happen is I bring my base, and again, my base is 2, right? The negative 3 is attached to the 2. I bring my base down to the denominator, and I can change the exponent to be a positive number. And since nothing's here in the numerator, I make it a 1. So 2 to the negative 3 equals 1 over 2 thirds. And if I expanded it, I get 2 times 2 times 2 in the denominator, and I get 1/8. The last example I want to go over with you is negative 2 to the negative 3. Okay, so this negative 3 exponent tells me to make a fraction, okay? And then my base, which is the whole thing, right? It's negative 2 in parentheses. That's what gets brought down to the denominator. So it becomes negative 2, and I'm going to keep the parentheses, to the third power. And then 1 is in the numerator. So that's the same thing as saying 1 over negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is 1 over negative 8. And then that's it. So here's the big example problem. Okay, so take a moment to write it down if you need to. Example 1. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to simplify this expression by making a fraction. And I'm going to look at each piece and decide if it's going to stay where it is or if it's going to get moved. Okay, so let's look. I see 3 to the 4th. It has a positive exponent, so I'm going to keep it where it is in the numerator. 3 to the 4th. Okay, now I look at a to the negative 3. That's a negative exponent, which means it's got to move. Okay, I'm bringing it down to the denominator. So it's going to be a to the 3rd. Right? When I move it, it now becomes a positive exponent. Now b to the 0, if you remember from class, Anything to the 0 power is just 1, okay? And you have to be very careful and realize what's the base, all right? So the exponent is 0, my base is just the b, so the whole thing actually becomes 1. So I don't need to write that, I just know anything times 1 is whatever it was, so I just ignore it. Okay, now let's take a look at the denominator. I have 2 to the negative 2. That's a negative exponent, so I'm going to move it up to the numerator, right? 2 to the positive 2 now because I moved it. And then finally I look at x to the 4th. It's a positive exponent, so it stays where it is in the denominator, x to the 4th. Now let's simplify things that we can do. 3 to the 4th is just 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then 2 squared is just 2 times 2. The denominator are variables, and since I don't know what they are, I can't simplify it anymore. So now if you just do the math in the numerator, it's 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81, right? And then let's do 2 times 2 is 4. So if we do 4 times 81, we should get 324 over a to the 3rd and x to the 4th. And that's it. So good luck trying your homework sheet, and if you have any questions, please email me.